Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this very special event. My name is Martin Sixsmith, and I'll be talking to Maestro Gergiev, and then we'll take some questions afterwards. And at the very end, I'm pleased to tell you that we'll have a drink courtesy of the Russian Embassy. This is a special event not just for the Mariinsky Theatre, but for the arts in Russia as a whole. As someone myself who spent a lot of time in St. Petersburg, beginning as a student there in the 1970s at the Leningrad Polytechnical Institute, I know how important, how central the Mariinsky is to the cultural life, not only of St. Petersburg, but now of Russia as a whole, and through the tours of its companies, and increasingly through its own CD label, and through the new digital visual media to the world as a whole. But it wasn't always so. Mariinsky has known lows as well as highs. The last years of the Soviet Union and the early years of the 1990s were difficult for the arts in general in Russia, and particularly for the Mariinsky. So we're very fortunate that a young, energetic, enterprising musician took the helm of the Mariinsky in those days and has stayed with it ever since. The 25 years since Valery Gergiev has led the Mariinsky have become something of a golden age. And I think you could say that those years have reached their apotheosis today in the marvellous project that we're here to discuss. But before we talk about the details of the new Mariinsky, Mariinsky 2, and the prospects that it opens up for the future, let's just remind ourselves of the marvellous music that we've come to expect from it. And I want to start by showing you an extract from Attila by Giuseppe Verdi, performed by the Mariinsky Opera. Fantastic. Valery, congratulations on having got the Mariinsky to this point. And I think the Mariinsky 2 is going to, I think I'm right in saying it's going to be the world's biggest opera and ballet complex. What have you got planned for the opening, which I think is happening in May next year?
First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you, our wonderful ambassador. We have this opportunity to enjoy this fantastic setting here. And Mariinsky 2, we call it Mariinsky 2, just to make it clear that it's not Mariinsky 1, which is a famous historical building, will be opened in the beginning of May. 1st of May, we will invite all our artists, especially artists who are maybe now not able to sing or dance, maybe they're 80 or even more, 90 years old, enjoy to be the first people who will hear the program which we'll have. On the 2nd of May, we will have an official opening. On the 3rd and 4th of May, we will continue, and on the 5th of May, we'll be in Moscow for the opening of Moscow Easter Festival. It will be one of the biggest complexes on Earth. We will have 3 venues: historical building, which seats about 1,800 people, new concert hall, which is 5 years old, 1,200 people can attend the performances there. Fantastic acoustics, acoustician, Mr. Toyota, a Japanese acoustician, who is known now more and more in Europe, most probably. You know that there is a concert hall in Paris to come soon, maybe 2014, Copenhagen, Helsinki, but we were the first in Europe. There is fantastic hall. And now in the Opera House, opening 2013, 2,000 seats, Canadian architect Jack Diamond and his company, cooperation with Russian company, will give us a very spacey, we believe, very beautiful, with tremendous opportunities. And I want to stress it from the very beginning. The question why you need another opera house is actually a valid question. I think we need one more opera house, not only because we're one of the most famous ballet or opera companies on earth, but also we want to increase our opportunities to work with young people, even with the schools of St. Petersburg. I want to start with this because it explains immediately the reasons why this new opera house is being built. In the first 3 seasons, I believe, all universities and all schools of St. Petersburg will have very strong chances to attend at least one performance of one of the venues. You know. So there are 3 venues, and every day there will be 3 performances. On Sunday there will be 6 performances. This is how we embrace the opportunity to work for 5 million people who live in St. Petersburg, and maybe several million people visitors. So I think it will be a good platform for us to increase our educational programs. And of course, what is normal, perform opera and ballet, and give sometimes symphonic concerts, maybe up to 50 a year, symphonic.
Let me just ask you a little bit about the architecture and design, because it was a sensitive place to build a striking new modern structure. It's an historic quarters in Petersburg. What can you tell us about the architecture?
I would like to stress that everyone will have certainly own opinion, and I don't want to describe architecture. You only see part of the complex, but I think it will be not what you call a screaming example of something so new that the old, beautiful Mariinsky will be outshined and basically even maybe outclassed. So I think you see Mariinsky historical building first of all and most of all. Then you also see, because you don't look from here normally, most people come here and see this building. I think it will be both comfortably, in colors especially, comfortably modest. Don't understand me wrongly, modest doesn't mean that it doesn't just forward itself to such an extent that you start to feel uncomfortable. Why the wonderful 19th century architecture is pushed away or just looking small comparing to the new. I think there is some kind of harmony which we all hope will be achieved. And 3 days from now I will have first acoustic test on the 22nd of December. So there will be maybe 200 artists trying for the first time already in orchestra pit on stage, the singers, the chorus, even the ballet. Acoustically maybe it's least important, but even ballet will perform just to have a first feeling. It's a work, it's not a performance offered to the public, but it's just a working process. But it's a terribly important day for us, of course. So I will tell you more about this complex in a few weeks, but already now it is clear we're practically ready for the opening, and acoustic was something we took very seriously, and there was a lot of energy and time spent and a lot of consideration was given to make acoustics very, very important element as we did with a new concert hall 5 years ago, where the results are sensational, simply sensational. All my recordings with Mariinsky, at least, are made in this hall, and I'm very, very happy and very proud of what we achieved with the concert hall. You can see the foyer. There are 3 foyer: upper foyer, middle foyer, lower foyer. In the middle foyer, you can make any given minute. You can make a concert, invite maybe 500 kids. You can invite maybe 300 grown-ups, students. You can have a press conference. You can have a conference. You can have anything, even maybe banking congress. I don't know. We don't plan it this way, but you certainly will have a grand piano there, and acoustically it should work. It was again worked out very, very cautiously that it will be acoustically another venue on top of 3 we have already. We will have. So, and this is what I call the educational program, where incredible opportunities will be there for us, and we have many singers, many musicians. Most importantly, we have a glorious tradition not to lose, as you know, starting from, to say the least, Glinka, and continue with at least 25, 30 great names of Russian composers. I think we will have plenty of music, and this music will be shared practically every day with as many young or even children as possible. That's generally, I don't want to go into details, but generally this is the plan.
Can you tell us a little bit about the facilities you've got there? Because it's not just the main auditorium, is it? You've got a whole plethora of things. You can use the new building.
Yes. Again, I don't want to sound comic, but you can make maybe 6 or 7 performances at once in this new. For example, rehearsal room, chorus rehearsal room. Yes, it sits maybe 150 people. Fantastic acoustic. We already gave a concert, and our friends from BP remember during the White Nights Festival, we just gave a concert. We had baritone singing, we had Ildar Abdelaga, who you just heard, by the way, fantastic singer. The reason for me to document Attila is not that in Europe, especially in Italy, they don't know how to do Attila, but it's a Russian bass who is today maybe the best Attila performer in the world for this role. I repeat, maybe. But you heard the voice. You heard the voice. It's difficult to compete with this kind of quality. And that's why we film sometimes Italian or German or French operas. But of course, we talk about it a little bit later, but core repertoire for us is Russian repertoire, and I understand this very well. If you talk about, this is for you a little concert hall. You see, you can sit 100 people there. You can also extend and put chairs here, and the piano can move even to the corner. It depends on what we will plan and what we want to do, but if I will tell you that we come to St. Petersburg University, Moscow University regularly, and we offer them concerts, you can imagine also they come to us. Now we have more space. We cannot interrupt a process in the Mariinsky 1 if there is a production assignment. We just cannot do anything in the auditorium. Our technical complex is limited in the historical building. It's a 19th century. Now we will have huge space, and like Royal Opera House, I remember very well, my last performance before reconstruction was 97, Lohengrin. I remember very well Old Opera House, and I loved it. But then in 2000 already we came to perform War and Peace and Simon Kotko, I think it was 2000, and it was hugely expanded space, hugely expanded. I think we'll keep our old house, and we just have hugely expanded space just in front of you. This is totally second opera house. That's maybe a little difference to the Royal Opera House scenario. But you see it yourself. This is a place where I hope I will myself appear many times in front of kids or students. That's all I want to say, because tourists or traditional music lovers, they're there. They're coming. We don't have to really try so hard. They will come. They'll be there. We respect it. But it's investment in the future. That's a big step where we want to focus our energies.
You mentioned that you've not had the acoustic tests yet. You've got those next week. Are you a bit anxious about that? You're opening in May. It's quite an important thing.
Yes. When we opened Concert Hall, our first acoustic test was in June. Our opening was in November. We repeat the same scenario. Mr. Toyota, I have to say, is a magician. I don't want to make very pathetic comments here, but it's in a way a Stradivarius of our time. he built maybe 10 halls acoustically engineered, and maybe 5 out of 10 belong to 5 best modern halls of our time. Sapporo, for example, in Japan, fantastic. Kawasaki in Japan. Yes, St. Petersburg as well. And let's hope what Paris will get will be good enough. And then let's hope London will get something. I'm sorry. But acoustic is important. I mean,
yeah. And you've still got room for adjustment between now and May.
Can be. I would say professionals know how to do it. I will be supporting anything they would desire. I would support within my, let's say, power, because acoustic is a huge priority.
What was your experience with the concert hall in 2006? Because you had the same process, you had a few months to adjust it. Did you have to make very many adjustments?
Well, look, Toyota is a professional. I just called him a Stradivarius or Guarnieri, whatever you prefer. But he knew how to do it. And I'm only proud of the fact that I supported acoustician to such an extent that even architects felt uncomfortable. But I knew what I was doing, so I'm, again, not proposing that everyone starts to do it, because architect is basically, traditionally, the leading person. And then comes the sound as one of other priorities. In our case, we just wanted to create an instrument. Instrument, not, first of all, monument of architecture, no, instrument. So we succeeded. But if we focus on this one, this is inside. You see, it is not a replica of historical Mariinsky, because also I don't believe, and maybe architect wouldn't mind to do something on its own, because you don't want a replica of historical building. If you build something in Milano, or if you build something in Paris, most probably it will be not a replica of Palais Garnier or La Scala, it will be something else. You always hope for the best result, but it is not a copy what makes a statement. It's original what makes a statement. Talking about Michelangelo or Raphael, in the same way we see architecture. And it's spacey, 2,000, very comfortable seats. Of course, computer generated. I mean, everyone will feel comfortable. No one will sit, I'm sorry, like this. And that's also important for the comfort of the public, of course. I'm sure that in 2-3 months after the opening, we'll have a lot of comments, and we very, very much hope for optimistic scenario.
Well, let's talk about the opening, because I assume you can do bigger and more complex productions in Mariinsky 2 than you could in the 19th century Mariinsky 1. What have you got planned for the opening?
Well, of course, I was tempted to start with a big statement, something like world premiere of a totally new composition commissioned by us, written for us. But there are too many elements coming together if you do it this way. One of them is a risk of grand opening going technically, just technically, something can go wrong. Plus, unpredictability of totally new production of opera which was never written yet, and so on and so on. So I hope you understand that we will start with a grand event, gala. We have too many famous singers or dancers. Also, orchestra and chorus will do very, very impressive work with any repertoire you can take. I think we will start with gala, and then we will, of course, have on stage great artists, Anna Netrebkova, Olga Borodina, Vladimir Galuzin, Diana Vishneva. If our own list will look not impressive enough, which I doubt, I think we will, of course, have Placido Domingo, who is a great friend, and by the way, for 20 years, a president of International Friends. I think it is important for us to remember tremendous support we got from the West in the difficult years. You started with this. Yes, and Great Britain was one of the first countries, and also one of the first, let's say, societies. You always talk about community. You have a great community for not only supporting, loving arts, but also being very generous and very friendly, very cultured. And our first successes here go back to 1992, first Royal Gala. It was in Royal Opera House. And then every year, Kitej or Yolanta, that was the very beginning. And of course, BBC, and I see Dennis Marks and Peter Manuel here, in 1990, famously transmitted live from the Soviet Union, from Leningrad, from Kirov, not Mariinsky theater, Tarkovsky's Boris Godunov, which we still play, we still keep it. And although we created new one with Gremvik, your own Gremvik, but we keep Tarkovsky, and public loves it. And then comes War and Peace in 1991. So Great Britain and its institutions like BBC or Opera House, or Albert Hall, the famous BBC Proms, or Barbican Centre, or Royal Festival Hall, English National Opera, and Birmingham, of course, I saw Andrew Jarrett here. Birmingham Fantastic Symphony Hall, which, by the way, I was the first one to conduct any opera there, correct? So you see, you also have a little presence of Mariinsky in your own historical pages. But let's talk about what we remember in difficult years where we needed support. We got support always from Russian government. I just want to tell you again, it was maybe impossible to imagine Russian government just stop all the rest of whatever was within their responsibilities and just start supporting one institution. Of course, it was difficult in 1991, breakup of Soviet Union, 1992, 93, 4, 5, and so on. And from 98, especially 99, it was becoming more stable. Then it became a rapidly growing economy. The budget of Russia grown maybe 50 times, more or less, 40 or 50 times since then. And of course, support for arts ever growing since. We have healthy support. I'm very grateful to Russian government. We have new opera house being built next to the Mariinsky, and it was costly project, but also it was costly because there were other buildings. There was a lot of work done that the other buildings and the institution could move to other places. To find where they go, to pay for it was a big operation, but now it's coming to a very, I hope, successful close, and we will be active. And our way to say thank you to the world, thank you to Russia, and thank you to Russian friends and patrons we have, thank you to international friends and parents, will be to perform as well as possible and not to lose, not to forget our glorious tradition, and I think we will serve these traditions as well as possible.
Well, let me ask you about the finances, Valery, because in the West the arts are having a very hard time, especially in this country. It's a time when budgets are contracting, and I think a lot of people here might look with rather jealous eyes to what's happening in St. Petersburg. Where do you get the funding from, and how much did it cost to build this?
Well, quickly, 2006, opening of new concert hall. The concert hall itself was funded by corporate and private support. It was completely funded by non-governmental, where everything around, and also water, electricity, gas, and so on, was provided by Russian government. We have quite a strong board of trustees. In Russia, we call them Попечительский совет, which means like caretakers. It's not a board of management, but I think it was an incredible amount of energy and very quick results, which stuns everybody still, even now, after 6 years. In a distance of 15 months from the moment we decided to start raising money to the grand opening. And believe me, it's not a small hall. 1,200 is maybe not an incredible figure, but the hall itself is big enough. That's why acoustic is so good, because it's very, very high, very spacey. And it was to restore historical building, which was destroyed in the fire in 2005-06, we did it. Now it's totally funded by Russian government. I can't tell you precisely the figure, it would be over 400 million pounds.
Around about 440.
You see, the pound was changing. You remember pound was 2 against dollar, then it was 1.4. And the same story in Russian ruble. I'm not maybe so easily swimming in these changes, but I will tell you it would be more than 400 million.
So we're talking about 22 billion rubles, so you can work it out on the exchange. A massive sum, so well done with the fundraising, that's fantastic.
Well, throughout 9 years, it's a massive sum of money, but it took 9 years. It was getting more and more expensive, unfortunately. But now we are focused on final result. Then we will also talk about how expensive it was, but right now we have to open it.
And is it going to be much more expensive to run? Are you going to have to double the personnel? Are you going to have 2 orchestras, 2 ballet troupes?
Again, very quickly. Or there will be 3 orchestras. One of them naturally will play more ballet. Another one will play more operas. Well, if you rehearse Tristan and Isolde, or Parsifal or War and Peace, you want to keep a rehearsed group with you for this title. If you rehearse 3 orchestras, in each case separately, for 3 performances of Tristan, you get into trouble. So, but professionals understand what I mean. It will be easy, and you should trust also my instincts to distribute the repertoire between these nearly 300 musicians. It will be relatively easy if you have experience of 25 years conducting and running institution. But more importantly, we will have to give as much support as possible to technicians, that they master new opera building, even Metropolitan Opera, even Opera Bastille, even Covent Garden experienced some unpredicted or unexpected troubles. And I think I shouldn't be wrong on this. We will also have some questions which we cannot even predict now, and we will find answers quickly. I don't know how quickly we will, but everyone is learning now, I believe.
What effects is it going to have on your touring? Because I think this
Less touring.
Less
Yes.
across the board.
You will not believe it, because I have a reputation of being everywhere every day.
No, surely.
I can, in a modest way, I can say I'm relatively known to Japanese audiences. I was there maybe 50 times. I was there 1 month ago. My next visit to Japan is in 2 years. This never happened to me. I was always there for 5 times a year. Not because I knocked the door, because I was asked 25 times. I would accept maybe 5. Now I accept maybe 1 in 2 years. It's quite a change. In US, where I performed maybe easily more than 1,000 times, only in New York maybe 300, 400 times, only in New York City, I will appear once a year. We lost our concert because of hurricane recently. That was my one concert at Carnegie Hall with Mariinsky. It didn't happen. No problem. We will get there in 1 year. In October, we'll make 3 or 4 concerts at Carnegie Hall, but it will be 1 visit a year. It used to be more. So I hope I'm clear, and the same way I can talk about Italy or Germany or even UK. Mariinsky is not such a over presence in UK now. Last time we performed here was Parsifal at Barbican and Parsifal at Birmingham, and Cardiff we performed as well. We have friends here at the Edinburgh Festival. We brought ballet company. I was enjoying myself conducting Cinderella. I love our company. They're really incredible dancers, young and energetic and very, very gifted, very beautiful on stage. I think we will continue to come, but maybe not for the sake of numbers, of how many visits. Just something interesting, something new, yes, that will come.
Because in the past, touring was a source of funding.
Yes, it was.
But are you less reliant on that?
We are now supporting our touring ourselves. To be honest, the bigger part of this comes now from us. I find it important. I looked at Vienna Philharmonic and asked myself why they go every year to New York, why they go every year to Japan. They even managed to go to Australia with me. That was very interesting. Korea, Hong Kong, China. And I think it is not about money. I think it's about prestige, it's about quality, it's about your statement, your global role, your presence, and your, if you want, national pride. Because we inherited something what you can describe modestly as an important tradition. If you are going further, you would say one of the most important ever. And why should be a Russian musician shy or even ashamed of being representative of a culture which gave the world Stravinsky or Tchaikovsky or Mussorgsky or Prokofiev, and actually city which did it, or to be even more precise, the theater which did it. Stravinsky grew up in the Mariinsky. Everything Shostakovich or Prokofiev heard in their first 15, 17 years basically was something to do with Mariinsky sound, Mariinsky singers, Mariinsky productions. Why Shostakovich at his 15th symphony quotes Wagner and Rossini? Because it comes to his childhood, to his youth in the Mariinsky.
You mentioned national pride, but is it also a little bit about St. Petersburg pride as well? Because less touring, more events in St. Petersburg. Are we seeing a shift of the sort of musical capital in Russia away from Moscow towards St. Petersburg? We saw the Tchaikovsky
rivalry
shared between.
Well,
no rivalry.
No rivalry.
Okay.
I think. Look, imagine eagle, a big bird, needs 2 wings, correct?
It does.
I think opera and ballet needs 2 wings. So big tradition, and no doubt Italian opera, fantastic. No doubt French tradition, more maybe balance between opera and ballet in France, maybe more opera in Italy, definitely more opera in symphony in Germany. You certainly have everything in Great Britain, but I think we are very happy to have Russian opera, Russian ballet performed very, very intensely and excessively in St. Petersburg, but also occasionally we come to Moscow, they come to us. We created Moscow Easter Festival. So I was born in Moscow. I'm in a complicated situation. Born in Moscow, live in St. Petersburg, created Stars of White Nights Festival for St. Petersburg. Then I thought I can do a little bit more, so we created Moscow Easter Festival for Moscow and regions of Russia. It works very well, I have to say.
Okay. The Mariinskys teamed up with Talmondis to bring operas from St. Petersburg on DVD. So I'd like now just have a look at an extract from, first of all, from The Gambler by Sergei Prokofiev, and then followed by an extract from
The Gambler we produced ourselves. This is, with Galuzia, who is sensational.
Я выиграл. Я очень много выиграл. Вот это 60 погибель одного стала. Вот еще 60, другой закрылся. Печален вид брюлетни после нашествия татарской породы. Замечательный случай, yes, замечательный случай. А дверь я не запер.
First opera of Prokofiev, young Prokofiev, 1919. This is Die Frau beschreibt. There was Die Frau ohne Schatten of Richard Strauss. It's a production of Jonathan Kent and Paul Brown design. You maybe know these masters.
Yes, and for those of you who don't speak Russian, at the very beginning of that Galuzin track, he was singing, I've won, and I suspect that Mariinsky might be forgiven for feeling exactly the same at the moment. Fantastic. Valery, you're pioneering the development of ballet performances filmed in 3D, and I think we're going to get the Nutcracker in this country at the end of December. Can you tell us a bit more about that and some of the other projects that you're developing?
Well, here we talk about totally different matter, how new technology affects and helps, dynamizes the golden traditions which are kept, of course, in many opera houses or ballet companies, opera companies. And I think our first goal was, more than 3 years ago, we had a production of Giselle filmed in 3D, and believe me, maybe very few people in the world knew how to work with 3D technologies in the opera house. I'm not talking about Manchester United to Chelsea, because sports is a different story. Here you have to know this score, the composer, the production, the costumes, the lighting, and so on and so on and so on. It's complicated. And it was partly successful, difficult, but it was first step. And we learned, all of us now, in America, in 400 or more cinemas, 10 days ago, 15 days ago maybe, the Nutcracker in 3D was shown, and it comes to UK. It will be, I think, everywhere, also in Asia, soon, in Russia, very soon. It will be followed by Swan Lake on the 14th of February, live 3D. That's another story. Live poses immediately more risks, more challenges, but we are preparing ourselves. Every time we become more and more experienced, and we will prepare it very, very thoroughly. And also, you have to know our new generation of dancers or singers. You just heard Galuzin, and before you heard Ildara Blazakov, and now you heard Mlada Hudolei in Die Kaiserin, singing this very, very difficult part in the great opera of Richard Strauss. We produced ourselves, Attila and the Gambler. We cooperated with Euro Arts on Die Frau ohne Schatten. We cooperated with Telmondis, a French company, on Boris Godunov, Ovanshina, and we cooperate with Telmondis and filming all symphonies of Shostakovich in Paris. We already filmed all symphonies of Prokofiev, all piano concertos and violin concertos in the Easter Festival in Moscow with company Euro Arts again. So you see not only numbers, but the responsibility we have for the repertoire. All Prokofiev, all Shostakovich symphonies. I think it's timely. There is no modern or even historical filming of all Shostakovich symphonies on TV, I believe. And certainly not on high definition and with all the qualities today you can find in the world. The same Prokofiev concerti and violin concerti, piano concerti, and his symphonies, which is, I think, very interesting, by the way. I spent 25 years, 30 years conducting, learning, trying to understand who is Shostakovich, who is Prokofiev. I think today maybe it's easier for me to give you some answers. Maybe easier after hundreds and hundreds of performances. And this Swan Lake will be on the 14th of February, filmed by a big group of professionals, which includes Cameron Pace Company from US. I met myself with James Cameron several times, and we had extensive talks. I think it's very interesting to combine what they learned already, the incredible experiences with making this those famous films, or transforming 2D to 3D, like in the case of Titanic, of course, yeah, or Avatar. But we are working now, and right now we are working. So it will be easy to say that in 2 months we will, maybe some of us will meet and we will comment how good or how not so successful was this experience. But we will prepare it very well, and it's already underway. The preparations are very strong. But we need partnerships like Western partners. Of course, Mezzo, we partner very, very often. Russian channel Kultura, which I find one of the best today in the world. Content is always very, very good quality. There is no advertising, no commercials. Just what you get is serious. If they devote to Pushkin, it's only Pushkin. If they devote Tchaikovsky, it's only Tchaikovsky. If it's Khavachin, it's only Khavachin, uninterrupted. And I think it's very serious. So we want to work with the partners, like I just mentioned. And I believe with the new stage arrival of Second Opera House, it will be just more opportunities.
So film and cinema are very important for putting down not definitive performances, but putting down a legacy, and also for bringing audiences into the theatre and into the concert hall, because more people will see it in the cinema, and then we hope will attend live performances.
I will combine 2-3 questions if you give me 1 minute.
Okay.
I certainly worked a lot with them at the Metropolitan Opera. I know the company, I know the orchestra, the friends, chorus, all the singers, and by the way, about 50 Mariinsky singers are singing at the Met if you take last 10-15 years. And they're not singing comprimario only, they're singing leading roles. If you look at the opening night of the Met, you will see out of 4 stars, 3 come from Mariinsky. Is it embarrassing? No. Is it something I should hide? No. No. The Met is very powerful, but partly also because they can find a way to ask leading voices or leading dancers or leading conductors or leading directors to be there with them. And in the last 20 years, one can say modestly there is a new chapter in the history of the Met. There are just so many Mariinsky singers there, simply, all the time. But they shouldn't film only at the Met. You understand me very well if I'm saying this. So I have to facilitate, or we have to facilitate, like Attila for Abrazakov or Iolanta for Anna Netrebko, which I hope we will see now, something very, very special. And we do it, we produce ourselves, but mainly my position is to co-produce with the Western partners. That's the decision I came to after many, many years of thinking, learning, and comes back to your previous question, or even previous to previous question, funding. Of course, today we are not surrounded by just floods of money coming from everywhere. Absolutely not. But our ticket sales are close to 100%. Even when we do Britain operas, I'm again in no apologetic mood to tell you we already staged The Turn of the Screw, which you imported to English National Opera from us. We staged Midsummer's Night's Dream very, very well, which you didn't import, and even BBC maybe didn't film it, but it's a year which we call also Verdi Wagner, and then comes Britain, your own Benjamin Britten. We are in a position to celebrate Britten. His music, his War Requiem, but yes, his operas as well. And I have tremendous pleasure conducting his music. I am principal conductor of London Symphony Orchestra. I have to conduct music. I love, and it happens that I love these operas I conducted at Belgian Opera, and there will be others, Willy Bato or Peter Grimes, to follow in the new opera house, of course, where maybe you can think of powerful production of Peter Grimes, huge chorus and technically very, very, let's say, patent. But it will be easy to say today that Mariinsky will fund big project, not because it has to be commercially successful, but because we are now successful commercially as well, so we can fund prestigious project for the legacy, for what you described, you know, maybe posterity and so on. I don't want to hear from Galuzin in 20 years, Maestro, why didn't you film me when I was in my best shape? I don't want to hear this. I want to film him. I want to film Anna Netrebko, and she's also gorgeously beautiful singer. It's not just voice. You know, we filmed Anna, and we did it well. But Yolanta is a fantastic role for her. Perfect, ideal. We produced it ourselves. Then we offered our partners to come and join us. It's exactly opposite to what was happening before, but there is a small change in the world, and this change means that somewhat soon in China they will do the same. They do it already, and we should not be scared of it, all of us. We should enjoy just hearing more and more from wonderful new Chinese talent. I happen to go to China every year, spend, well, 1 week maybe. I opened the new opera house with Mariinsky. It was a big occasion, very big occasion. In 2007, believe it or not, 25th of December. Was not meant to be for Western guests maybe, because everyone was celebrating Christmas in Europe. They were opening opera house in Beijing. We were there. So learning and learning now brings to the point that funding is not something what you have to press in order to have a very successfully reported bottom line results. You know, I think you have to serve the artistic mission, which is, I think, by far the most important. And if we risk too high, if we risk too often, I think I will be reminded of my responsibilities, and I am aware of it. And our ticket sales will be close to, maybe in 2014, 60, 70 million euro, which means maybe 80, 90 million dollars. It's not a small sum of money. I believe that the Met is very successful with filming, and this HD broadcast very successful. So when you go out and you want New Zealand to join your performance, or Argentina, or Finland, or you know, you go on in South Africa, so then you create something like this series. So we do create more or less similar, but we have ballet, which the Met doesn't.
Before we finish, Valery, I just want to ask you about the Mariinsky Live CD label, your own label, and about the latest releases you've got planned for that. But we're going to hear a couple of extracts first, and then I'll ask you about that. It's from the Divan, as you can see.
Stehen in der geschieht mir Sieg, einen Ruhe, ein Trotz ich mit ihm. Schweig und schrecke die Schlummernden nicht. This way, oh traurigste Heiland Treue, gegen dich treten in Waffen die Welt, und ich, den du einzig vertraut, für den du ja einzig getrotzt, mit meinem Schutz nicht soll ich dich schämen, die verraten im Kampf, wenn er sperrt mich auf, besteht der Schimpfe Sieg. Muss ich denn fürchten, nicht vor irgendeiner Weilheit, halte dich fest.
The recording of the Valkyrie was made in the new concert hall, and the Rheingold is recorded as well. It's also finished. It will be released late January, I think, now, and immediately, I believe, late spring Rheingold. So in the next 6 months, those two operas will be released worldwide. The big group of Russian singers is also part of these recordings. What you heard now was sung by Jonas Kaufman, Nina Stemme, but Mikhail Petrenko, Evgeny Nikitin, Nikolai Putilin, Ekaterina Gubanova, Alexei Markov, Sergei Semishkur, and believe me, these are very, very good voices. It's not accidental that Barenboim or Muti or Levine constantly use our singers, or I wanted to say my singers, because they started to sing Wagner 12, 13, 14 years ago with Parsifal. It was 97. They're on the recording of Parsifal, as you know, and I believe it is important for us to combine best Western and best Russian voices in singing Wagner. Wagner himself came to St. Petersburg. He was offered my post, my position. He accepted. GMD, they called General Music Director. And then he went to Switzerland, then he was lured away by the king of Bavaria. So Mariinsky didn't get him finally, but the agreement was made, and he was extremely happy, as you know, and performed a lot of his music for the first time with Mariinsky Orchestra in 1863, for the first time ever, including excerpts from The Ring. So for those people who think, why Ring, why in Russia, I just wanted to give you this little piece of information. And also recording of Parsifal also proposes that we can continue to do it as a territory of Wagner. The other thing I wanted to tell you was that we recorded all Prokofiev, all Shostakovich, we filmed Yolanta, we cooperate with Euro Arts, we cooperate with Telmondis, we cooperate traditionally with BBC, we will do 3D projects, of course, but we will not forget about Russian audiences, we go to the regions of Russia a lot. If you compare to your situation, can you imagine London orchestras quite regularly performing in Northern Ireland or north of Scotland or so? That's more or less what we try to do. I have this feeling that it is important for us to appear in Yakutsk even when it's minus 40. That the people in Yakutsk don't feel abandoned or totally outside the golden circle of cultural wealth and so on. This is what we believe in, what our board believes in, the companies support us believe in, and I think Russian government doesn't tell us, by the way, to be honest. They don't tell us you have to do it, we just do it. I hope they will start telling others they should do it as well, because it is much more comfortable to sit in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but it's maybe more exciting to go to these people today. That's my experience of an artist, and I really believe, I have to tell you, this is what I always wanted to do. I just share it with you because we can do it now. It was difficult before, it wouldn't work. Now we also can do it, and that's very, very comfortable thing. Anna Netrebko is not from Moscow, Petersburg. She's from Krasnodar. She came with me to Krasnodar to perform. You can imagine what kind of euphoria was there. It's their own girl coming with Mariinsky orchestra, full size, and performing for her. Her schoolmates were there in the auditorium. I remember they were very noisy, the girls, you know. But it was a great moment for her as well. And I think the same you can say about me being from North Ossetia, so I also go there and conduct, and so on, so on, so on. It's a big country, and I think we have to contribute now because we are helped. Government helps, corporations help, both Russian national corporations and international help. Amongst our supporters, also great British company, BP, Total from France, Nestle from Switzerland, of course Alcoa from America, and there are many, many companies support non-Russian as well. But we believe it is a very important process where outside pure economical fields, there is something what you call sharing or giving back, and I think this is appreciated by Russian public, I stress, especially in the regions removed from Moscow. This is a big priority. If I come to Irkutsk or Yakutsk or Krasnoyarsk, I would insist on 2 concerts, because official concert where the governor will come and people who can buy tickets is only part of the pleasure. It's the schools and universities who get it for free. That's the thing. That's a real thing where you start to feel you can do something important in your life. Because, look, we all perform, and I do conduct those 150 or 180, I don't know how many performances, but big part of my job is giving concerts for children aged 8, 9, 10, 12, even more frequently, young people, 15, 17, 20, 23, 25, universities, everywhere, not just St. Petersburg. And that's a statement I wanted really to make, because I want to be understood sometimes in the right way as well.
Final question, Valery. You've got a big birthday coming up. I think it's not indiscreet to say that.
Really, to remind me of this.
You're going to turn 60 on May the 2nd next year. You spent 25 years bringing the Mariinsky out of the dark days of the late 80s and early 90s and establishing it as this sort of powerhouse in the cultural world. Have you got other challenges ahead? Are you going to do more of the same? I know you've got plenty of spare time on your hands. You don't conduct enough performances each year.
I would stay focused on Russian repertoire. I would make not that many, but important decisions and act based on these decisions, where productions of Wagner or Verdi or Richard Strauss. I am very happy we did so much Richard Strauss. I think it's an important addition to our repertoire. I think we also do work on new Mozart or Puccini, of course Verdi. We just staged new production of Don Carlo with Fontainebleau, the scene, which makes it a very, very long opera, but very exciting opera. And when you are a conductor and you look at your roster of the singers you own, and you look at Abdrazakov, Nikitin, Petrenko, you start to think that, well, it will be good to have all of them involved in one production. So Don Carlo is an answer, for example. Yeah? But there are you will see this video of Boris Godunov made by Telman Lis and Mariinsky. We co-produced it. It's a very new, very political production, or politicized production of Gergiev. But don't forget, it's not only Mussorgsky, it's not only Mariinsky, it's not only Gergiev, it's also this golden generation of artists. I have tremendous responsibility in front of them. I cannot imagine Nikitin singing elsewhere and also recording elsewhere, and then not even recording Boris Godunov and the Mariinsky. It's a little crime on my part, so I don't want to allow this to happen. So you will occasionally see those big media, video, TV projects, and they will be always reasonable, I promise. There will be no reason for me to think the Valkyrie should not be recorded if Mariinsky Orchestra cannot play it. I'm telling you, they can do it. I'm telling you now, and I take all the responsibility. And the voices which will be next to Kaufman or Pape, they can do it. You will never hear a donor like Alexei Markov. You will not hear it often. You will not hear Albrecht so physically frightening like Putilin. So I believe there was a reason. Finally, we spent much time preparing this. But when it comes back to Russian opera or symphony, of course I will finish the Shostakovich cycle, because I don't want to be remembered as someone who conducted very much. I also want to be remembered as someone who knew what he was doing when he conducted. And if you tell me what you conducted too often, I will say, yes, that's why I can record Shostakovich Symphony No. 4 better than most of living persons today, because I conducted it many times. Please understand. And I will make these small statements on Shostakovich or Prokofiev or Stravinsky. They will be based on big preparation and big experience. And I'm never saying it will be best ever Sacre or best ever Shostakovich cycle, but it may happen that it will be respected in some 50 years or 30 or 20, I don't know.
Valery, thank you very much indeed. Fantastic.